Time is now 6:30. We'll call the general session of the Ridgefield Planning Commission to order. If we could start with a flag salute, if everyone could please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could do roll call.
Commissioner Glavin.
Present.
Commissioner Molinex.
Present.
Vice Chair Amerman.
Present.
Commissioner Flynn. Commissioner Butler.
Present.
Chair Tyler.
Present.
Commissioner Wolf.
Present.
And if I could have a motion to excuse Commissioner Flynn from tonight's meeting.
I motion as stated.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Ms. Lust, are there any late changes to the agenda?
There are no late changes, thank you.
Thank you. So then to start, we will first go into our first public comment period. Anyone requesting to speak to the commission may request to do so at this time. And this will be for any item that is not subject to a public hearing during tonight's meeting. If you have not provided notice in advance to speak during the public comment period, please use the raised hand feature, and the clerk will send you permission to unmute your microphone so you're able to make your comments. For controls over the phone, press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to mute and unmute. Please limit comments to 30 minutes. We have a handy little timer now. Oh, 3 minutes, not 30, unless you're feeling particularly verbose tonight. 3 minutes, and I believe with the new timer, if there will be a ding at about the 30-second mark to give you a heads up. So if there's anybody wishing to make a public comment during this time. And if you could come to the podium, please state your name, and then go ahead. Oh.
There you go. Should be good.
There you go.
Bear with us.
You will get your full 30 minutes. Okay.
Great, thank you. Alicia Highland. And so do I just speak upon, so I'm just here to just talk and speak on the city artwork of public art budget, if there is one. I represent a local artist who has done public art all across the nation for all 50 states. And so he would love to, his family is moving here from Troutdale, and they actually have public art all over Troutdale already of bronze sculptures. And so him and I were kind of looking at the roundabouts and talking about down towards the water, how beautiful it would be if there was any room in a budget for some bronze sculptures, and he'd be willing to work with the city of, like, you know, for a pricing of placement and all of that. So I'm just here to, since it's Public Art Month in Ridgefield, so to speak on that matter.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else wishing at this time to make a public comment, either in person or on the Zoom or phone? Not seeing anybody at this time, we will close the first public comment period. Move on to the consent agenda and the approval of the minutes. If everyone's had a chance to review, if there's no changes need to be made, I welcome a motion.
So motioned.
Second
Second
Sorry.
motion.
Thank you. And as for the record, I'll be abstaining since I wasn't here at the last meeting, and so wouldn't have any input on this. So But all in favor of approving the minutes from the February 2025 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We will now move on to the public hearing portion of our meeting, and I will turn the time over to Ms. Lust to get it started.
Thank you, Chair Tyler. We have one business item this evening, which is a public hearing on the Legacy Trails 3 zone change for a proposed mixed-use overlay expansion. So I will present on the topic and then hand it back to the Commission for any questions or discussions you may have for staff. Then we will go into a public hearing followed by any further discussion, and then I would ask for for Planning Commission to make a motion regarding a recommendation to City Council on this matter. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Can you just hit the next slide, please? There we go. All right, so the subject property is on South Royal Road. On the east side of that road, it is south of the Legacy Trails apartment complex, which in turn is south of Discovery Ridge, Rose Hours, etc. It is north of the northernmost portion of the Clover Hill and Seven Wells Estates developments. The property itself is 13.89 acres, roughly. The proposal is an expansion of an existing mixed-use overlay, which is on the property. A mixed-use overlay is a zoning overlay, so a proposal to modify the area covered by the overlay is a zone change proposal, the process for which is that it does go through public hearing at Planning Commission, and then a public hearing at Council, followed by council action. So the proposal is on the screen before you in terms of the change to the overlay being proposed. It would expand the mixed-use overlay that currently exists on approximately 3.4 acres of the western portion of the property to cover about 9.6 acres. So the zoning as it exists on the property is split, the base zone between medium-density residential, or RMD 16 to the west, and employment to the east. And the boundary there is a pretty large wetland complex, creating kind of a natural boundary between those two zoning districts. So the proposal would take the mixed-use overlay that's currently mapped just along Royal Road and expand that to cover the whole residentially base zoned area of the property. The purpose of the proposal is to facilitate future mixed commercial and multifamily residential development on that residentially zoned portion of the property. Important to note that no development is proposed with this application. It is for the zoning overlay change only. Any future development under an expanded mixed-use overlay would be subject to a separate land use process, a Type 3 master planning process, which would include a public hearing before the hearing examiner. All right, so as I just mentioned, this proposal is just for the zone change, no development. However, it is illustrative, as we have done with previous zone change requests, to look at the applicant's concept plan of what could be built out under an expanded mixed-use overlay. So that's on the slide before you now. To the north, you can see drawn in there the existing Legacy Trails apartment development. So the proposal would be to expand the mixed-use overlay here to essentially facilitate an expansion of that development to the south. So, as you know, the mixed-use overlay comes with a required mix of uses depending on the base zone. So, under the existing residential medium-density base zone, the permitted uses are generally townhomes. It's residential at a density between 8 and 16 units per acre. Under the mixed-use overlay, the allowed density increases to between 8 and 28 units per acre. And just for reference, the apartments at Legacy Trails, as well as those at Acero to the northwest, all developed under mixed-use overlays, and they are right about at that maximum 28 unit per acre density. The mixed-use overlay over this residential base zone, between 40 and 80% of the site is required to be residential uses. As you can see, this concept plan would be at the higher end of that. And then the remaining 20-60% of the site is required to be commercial uses such as general retail, eating and drinking establishments, et cetera. So as you can see, this concept plan has one commercial building there adjacent to Royal Road, and the rest residential, as well as ample open space to the east side of the property associated with that wetland, including a trail that would link up to the trail behind Legacy directly to the north. Okay. So the development code does have approval criteria for any proposed zoning amendment, which this is. There are 4 criteria. The first is the most substantive. The following 3 are more administrative. And in your packet, you will see the applicant's responses to each of these criteria. The first criteria is that any amendment to zoning maps must be consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. So that does at this time mean the 2016 to 2035 comprehensive plan that is currently effective. The applicant provided responses in their narrative as to how this proposal could meet a number of policies in the comprehensive plan, particularly those land use and housing policies. All right, with that, I think I will flip back to the map just showing what is being proposed this evening, which is the zone change, and I will turn it back to you, Chair Tyler, for any initial questions from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lust. Do any commissioners have any thoughts, comments, or questions they'd like to start with?
Question. So I recall from the February 17th, the President's Day Council meeting, that one question that was asked was, how is the other proposal meeting the requirement of affordable housing? And so although I recognize that we're not talking about the plan itself, I was thinking that in order to expedite that process, if like that goes through, if this gets approved and we're on the path to get it approved for that mixed use, is that a question that is being asked on the approval criteria as in regards to like the goals of the city?
Sure. That's not directly being asked for on the approval criteria. So the approval criteria are related to existing goals and policies in the comprehensive plan, which may include housing goals and policies. For context here, Planning Commission recently reviewed a completely separate mixed-use overlay expansion request that then went before council, and council, as part of their process, requested what's called a concomitant rezone, which is basically a a rezone and a development agreement packaged together that places certain conditions of approval, basically, on the rezone. And one of the things council asked for there was consideration of affordable housing as part of the future development plans under the expanded mixed-use overlay. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's sort of how that conversation came about under that other proposal.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
And correct me, we are just going on, or talking about the zoning. We're not talking about any of the ramifications of like you said, like affordable housing or anything like that, correct? That's not in considerations here?
Correct. The proposal is the zone change.
Correct, okay. And remind me, for the mixed use, is there already written into any of that, any regulations on like the affordable housing or anything like that, limitations on the housing in those areas?
There are not development standards or regulations pertaining to affordable housing in the current mixed-use code, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts from, please?
So question, how is the city tracking? Because I understand like our goal is to have 5,800 new homes. That's the need. But for affordable housing, it's like 4,000. How is the city tracking where the progress is to meeting that goal of 4,000?
Yeah, so this proposal is coming concurrent with our current comprehensive plan update, and a component of that comprehensive plan update is planning for capacity for housing at different income levels. And certainly as proposed, with or without a fixed affordable component, this would produce units at a higher density under the mixed use overlay than it would without the mixed use overlay. So that is as an example, that is a change, the delta there we could track and count towards the total.
Okay.
That'll be ongoing implementation though, is figuring out how to track. Part of it will be zoning. Part of it will be other tools to get to affordability, other financial tools.
I think that's kind of where I was getting at with the approval criteria is not that it's locked in stone, but could it be a question of how many units are you willing to provide, or what's the minimum that you could do, or what's the maximum? I don't know, just a number that developers could provide so that the city is able to track that growth with each project, and also as we're thinking ahead and expanding, so that we are able to not have pockets that are at or below AMI.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that is something that we can get information from the applicant before this goes before council to be able to inform them better on what could come after the zone change in terms of development. And then they can take that into consideration as they consider the proposal too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got a question about, and this is kind of building off of what's already been brought up. First, I wanted to harken back to you're referencing the work that we did on that other change. Was the package kind of that the city council did, that was post-zoning change and it was all about everything that happened after the zoning change, or was it packaging with the zoning change?
It's packaged with the zone change.
Okay, gotcha.
And that is council's prerogative
Gotcha.
to do what's called a concomitant rezone. So council has not actually approved the zone change yet. They've said, based on the information presented for this, again, separate project, timeout, we want to ask for these conditions as part of our zone change approval, which will
Gotcha.
come back to them at a subsequent meeting.
Well, then that leads to kind of my second part, and again, getting stuck on the affordable part. And I, again, understand that, we continue on this discussion. We have limited tools, limited capabilities, but nonetheless, it seems like it still is an opportunity. I know that a lot of what we're trying to do is in our work on the updated comprehensive plan, but this is an opportunity potentially, and I'm just wanted to kind of put the comment out there in the context of that packaging, that there might be an opportunity to go beyond, again, just another case where we make it possible by allowing for increased density, where we know quite often that does not actually lead to affordable housing, and just to kind of make the request / suggestion that, we take this as one more opportunity to see if there is anything we could package in as requirements that might increase the likelihood of the density actually being affordable. And again, I'm not claiming to have a better understanding of what we currently do have on our plate as possible options there, but nonetheless, just density is not the answer. I mean, it's a key piece, it's a requirement, but you can just as easily have another, dense set of very expensive apartments or condos rather than something that's truly accessible by, standard employment level residents. So just wanted to make that comment, but that's it for me.
And if instead they could go through a zoning change of the underlying zoning, is that correct? To accomplish the same, I suppose, goal or purpose? To change the underlying zoning from RMD 16 to a more dense?
So RMD 16 is the city's most dense residential base zone. Right now, the tool we offer to go more dense is the mixed-use overlay.
Okay, so that's the only option to provide basically an apartment complex is through the overlay.
Basically, yes.
Okay. Is the lot just to the, is it south? Is that also RMD 16 with the same overlay to the left side of it?
You know what, I don't have the zoning map in full in front of me.
It appears that way from this
Yeah,
larger.
I'm pulling up the larger, yeah. I don't have the information in front of me to answer that question about the lot to the south accurately, but I
No.
can look into it.
No worries. As it states throughout the packet, this is just to consider a change to the zoning. There's a concept included, but there's no actual plan submitted yet or locked into place. And so my understanding is you go through a type 3 hearing, or type 3 hearing. That's right?
Correct. And to just catch up on your previous question, I'm reading through my notes a little bit closer here. The parcel to the south is, I believe, all medium density 16 without overlay at this time.
Oh, okay.
And then to answer your second question there, yes, the proposal tonight and what would go forward to council is the zone change only. Any subsequent development proposal would have to go through a full mixed-use master plan process, which is a type 3 review. So it goes through a staff review, and then staff makes a recommendation to the hearings examiner, who's basically an impartial land use attorney who makes the final decision.
And it would be approved, my understanding is it would be approved as long as they met the criteria for the development on that zone, or for that parcel.
That's correct. Projects that go to a hearing examiner for approval, they are assessing based on the objective approval criteria in the code as to whether or not the project is approved with or without conditions.
And so I'm not to imply or even, that any kind of tricking is kind of going on here, but it is possible they could come back and propose a zoning that now 60% of this would be commercial, up to 60% of commercial, and the only 40% would be residential. And I guess that's my worry is the commercial creeping closer and closer into the residential areas. I like how we have I love how Ridgefield has been laid out, where commercial is most of it's off to, closer to the highway, and it's not in the middle of, or right, abutting up right to other residential. So I like you talked about before, it seems it would make a lot of sense to go through and concurrent with approving the zoning change to have a development agreement where the city can ensure that certain aspects, affordable housing if that's possible, how like the percentage of the land that would be used for commercial as opposed to residential, just really lock that down so that when the zoning is approved, there's more guarantees about what could happen. That would be my thought on this. Other than that, I don't have any other thoughts at this time. Anybody else? Or we can turn to the hearing. We'll go to the public hearing, and then afterwards we'll have some additional discussion. So where's my sheet on that one? There we go. So now now is the time for a public hearing. If you have signed up with the clerk prior to the meeting to address the Planning Commission on this specific item, your name will be called and the clerk will send you permission to unmute your microphone or come forward to the podium to make your comments. If you have not provided notice in advance to speak during the public hearing, please use the raise hand feature if you're on the Zoom. If you wish to make a comment, and the clerk will send you permission to unmute your microphone, so you're able to do so. For controls over the phone, press *9 for raise hand and press *6 to mute and unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. There will be no back and forth interaction between the speaker and the Planning Commission. Did anybody sign up in advance to make a comment during this public hearing?
No one in advance, no.
Okay, so at this time, anyone wishing to do so can come to the podium or raise their hand online. And please state your name and go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Keenan Orden-Bacallion. I'm a land use attorney with the law firm Jordan Ramus. My address is 1211 Southwest 5th Ave, Portland. I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant developer tonight for the Legacy Trails Phase 3 application before you. As implied by the name, this is part of a larger project with Legacy Trails Apartments just to the north. I want to start tonight by thanking Claire and the rest of planning staff for their hard work on this application. I think that the staff report and her comments tonight have really summarized the project quite well. So in that regard, I think I'm going to keep my comments very brief. I know I'm on the clock as well. As noted by staff, the purpose of this application is simply to expand the mixed-use overlay to the other portions of RMD 16 property that do not currently have the overlay on that portion of land. Extending the overlay will facilitate the mixed commercial and residential development of the property as illustrated by the concept plan that you also have before you. Again, that concept plan is not binding, but it is illustrative to what the developer's current intention is going forward. So to kind of address your question, Commissioner Tyler, regarding the commercial spread, although I understand there's nothing binding regarding this specific application, our intention right now is to focus on the residential capacity of the property and less so on the commercial. That being said, the mixed-use overlay provides several key benefits to developing the property. For one, it provides more density, but then two, it does provide the opportunity to include the commercial aspect, which focuses kind of like a cohesive commercial node within the entire neighborhood. That allows less impact on existing capacity for roadways, transportation, and it also makes the entire area, including the subject property as well as the properties around it, develop in a cohesive manner that really fosters that neighborhood component that we believe the comprehensive plan and the city is looking for. So in terms of this specific application, the proposal is consistent with the city's vision as laid out in its current and ongoing GMA comp plan update process. In placing the overlay on the property will allow the city more flexibility to hit its density targets, which was referenced earlier as well too. In terms of, I think, the questions that were raised today, the point is very well taken regarding affordable housing. The good thing about this overlay is that right now the RMD 16 zone currently only allows for limited single-family detached housing. With the overlay, there's actually a requirement that you have to do more flexible multifamily housing. And although that doesn't directly translate to affordable units, it does give both the developer and the city a lot more flexibility to be creative in terms of the housing supply they're proposing, which in turn can lend itself to affordable housing. Confirming, yes, the property to the south is also RMD 16 with no overlay on it. And then I guess in terms of addressing your question, which I raised earlier about the creep of commercial, right now the intention is what's laid out in the plan. It's a point well taken, but I think that, just being transparent right now, I think that's what our intention is. Beyond that, I'm being walked out of here, the music. I was going to take any questions if you do have any, seeing as we are the applicant's representative, but otherwise I want to thank you for your time tonight. All right. That was very, very Grammys right there, very Oscars.
Is there anyone else wishing to make comments during this public hearing? You may come forward to the podium, or if you're on the Zoom or on the phone, you can use the raise hand feature. Not seeing anybody, we will close the public hearing portion. I'm not on. Let me turn this on. Do commissioners have any other further comments or questions they'd like to discuss? Not seeing anything, so welcome a motion for a recommendation to City Council at this time.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to the city council to approve the requested change as written.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion on the motion as proposed? I think I would like, so I would like to make a motion, I guess, to amend the motion, just to include with that, I agree with the recommendation to make the recommendation to approve it. I just also add in a recommendation to consider a development agreement along with the approval of the zoning change to ensure the city has some ability to work with the developer beforehand to ensure the city's goals, either with affordable housing, with commercial residential use, but just allow them, I recommend considering. I'd move to, I guess my motion is to move to amend the motion to recommend approval of the zoning change as well as with the consideration of a development agreement. And I believe a second on that.
I'll second that amendment then.
I was just, for clarification, Ms. Lust, I believe since the motion was made, that has to be voted on, correct?
You can nest a motion within a motion, as Chair Tyler has done.
Okay.
So if you have a motion and a second on the table, which we do, then the chair asks for discussion. As part of that discussion, a motion to amend can be made, which Chair Tyler has done and Commissioner Amerman has seconded. So now you have the sort of the sub-motion on the table with the second. So how this would work procedurally is you would take a voice vote on that sub-motion, and if it passes, then it becomes part of the parent motion, and then you roll it back up because you still have a second on that parent motion. Then you would do a voice vote on the parent motion, including the amendment.
Understood. Thank you.
So I guess let's do a voice vote on the motion to amend the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say nay.
Nay.
Motion to amend the motion carries. And we'll have more discussion on the motion if you have anything you'd like to add or change.
My only comment is that I think that based on the comments that we've heard in the past, with adding higher density, regardless of pay or cost, and keeping it centralized and located in one smaller area as opposed to have the higher density further out and into the other areas, this kind of meets that previous talks, and so that is my only comment.
Any other comments or on the motion? So now we'll have a vote on the motion to make the recommendation to approve the zoning change with consideration of requiring a development agreement along with that zoning change. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, say nay. The motion carries. And I believe that ends our public hearing portion of the meeting tonight. We will now move on to the public comment section, segment. Second public comment, so is now anyone requesting to speak to the commission may do so at this time. If you have not provided notice in advance to speak during the public comment period, please use the raise hand feature and the clerk will send you permission to unmute your microphone so you're able to make your comments. For controls over the phone, press *9 for raise hand and press *6 for mute or unmute. Anyone wishing to make a public comment at this time may do so, may come forward to the podium. Anyone online wishing to make a public comment at this time? Not seeing anybody, we will close the public comment period. Move on to staff reports.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few things for the commission this evening. The first of which is an announcement for everyone that the State of the City is going to be coming up soon, Tuesday, March 18th at 6 p.m. at the High School Performing Arts Center. It's always a really good event. And to add on to that, we did this for the first time last year and it went really well, so we're doing it again from 5 to 6 p.m., so the hour before the State of the City address actually begins, there will be an open house in the lobby there of the Performing Arts Center, where different city departments and divisions will be tabling sort of an educational event. And as a segue here, this is going to be a good opportunity to get working on one of Planning Commission's work plan tasks, which is to offer more education to the public on what the Planning Commission does. So Chair Tyler has already agreed to join me at our table as part of that. And if any one of you is also interested and able to participate, I would welcome that. Just let me know after the meeting or in the next few days. All right. The next thing on my list is also related to tonight's meeting and our work plan. Another thing that Planning Commission has in your 2025 work plan is regular training opportunities. And we had a good little brush with Robert's Rules of Order this evening in our nested motion. So I am going to be sending out in the next couple of days I don't want to call it a homework assignment, but it kind of is, for some training on Robert's Rules. I know it's something we all look at and then don't, and then we regret not looking at it again sooner. So I'm going to be sending that out, so that'll be your first little training brush up opportunity. And then finally, thinking ahead, I know our April meeting is always during spring break week, and it can be difficult to get quorum as people are out of town. So please let our clerk, Ms. Siebert, know as soon as possible if you know you are not going to be able to attend the April meeting, so we can know as soon as possible if we will have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lust. We'll now go to the commission. From commissioners, if they have any comment, let me start down at this end this time.
Nothing this evening, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullenix?
Nothing that I've been pretty busy, obviously, with a new child and a lot of work lately. But I am very interested in the state of the city address thing. What day did you say that was again?
Sure, it is March 18th, which is a Tuesday. The open house is from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then the formal program starts at 6 p.m. It's at the Ridgefield High School Performing Arts Center.
Okay. And then one thing I noticed the other day that I thought was interesting is, has anyone noticed on exit 9, we have a City of Ridgefield welcome sign that appears to be like a cardboard box or a stone with a paint on it or something? Okay, just one interesting thing to look at. That's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Amaro?
Got a couple things. I guess the primary one, is just sharing, continuing to share something I'm involved in that I'm very proud of and definitely want to just keep sharing the experience of. A mentor on the high school robotics team here in Ridgefield, and we had our first competition this past weekend. It was my first competition, period, first time out in the field with the team in that environment, and yeah, definitely exceeded any and every expectation I had. This was down at the fairgrounds, the Oregon Fairgrounds outside of Salem. There were 36 high school teams from around the entirety of Oregon and Washington State, some from quite far away. Of those 36 teams, we placed third. Did extremely well, and quite frankly, we could have done even better, and that's certainly not a complaint. It's just we definitely have a team and a robot that has more room to grow and more capability than we demonstrated. So we are not only looking good for districts, but we have a very real chance of going to Worlds, which is down in Texas in April. So we'll see how this all plans out, but definitely want to continue to share this story because I couldn't be more proud of these kids. It's really is one of the better opportunities extracurricular in our school system because of how ultimately multidisciplined it is, how much it emphasizes graceful professionalism and cooperation among individuals, teams, across the entire thing. So yeah, just really proud of this team. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Levin?
I don't really have anything to say. Thanks for letting us know about the March 18th State of the City.
Thank you. Commissioner Butler?
Thank you, Director Lest and city staff for tonight. I wanted to say thank you to City Council for recognizing Black History Month and the Youth Arts Month. Also, thank you to Public Works for maintaining our roads during the busy snow that we had. I was out, I think, Thursday morning, and they were already out before snow had even hit. So just wanted to tell them thank you so much. I attended the Multicultural Night at Ridgefield High School that was put together by the Honor Society, the French Club, and Unite Ridgefield, and it was their first time doing it and a very great event. And I just wanted to thank Miss Highland for your comment, and although I don't have a number about the budget and what the city can do, but I do know that the Roundabout Committee meets on Mondays, and so that might be an opportunity. Also, maybe reaching out to the Ridgefield Art Association to see if there's any collaboration that could be done there.
I just went to the meeting.
Oh.
Yes, but that's kind of how I got turned here. I'm new to the city as well, so we're excited to come.
Well, thank you for being here. Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you. I also want to echo thank you to Ms. Lust and Ms. Siebert for being here tonight and getting us all prepared and all the work that they do behind the scenes to make our jobs very easy. So big thank you to them. Big thank you to the public who's here. It's always great to look up and see people in the chairs. And so appreciate them being here and appreciate your participation. I also want to thank the commission for filling in, especially Commissioner Ammerman for stepping in a very last minute last month when I unfortunately couldn't make it due to some work commitments that came up last minute. So thank you for everyone it sounded like it was a good meeting that I missed, but really appreciate everyone being there to fill in for the cover for me. I don't have much else to echo. I just welcome everybody who could make it to the State of the City on March 18th. It'd be great not to be the only person at the table. So power in numbers, and so it's always great to have as many people there as possible to interact with the public and be able to help them better understand what we do here on a month-to-month basis. So thank you again for everybody. With that, we will adjourn.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm definitely going to be there for the table. I was actually did a lot during that period last